Hello, Fantasy Faithfuls, and welcome to today's live stream. I was supposed to welcome Ryan Whitfield to today's show, but we've had some changes come up in the last minute, so it will be just me. But before we get started, I would like to remind everyone that the Fantasy Snapshot Bundle is currently having an early bird special going on cstfantasy.com/fantasy snapshot with video breakdowns of over 100 players coming over the course of this summer. Two new players are being uploaded right after this show, Ben Roethlisberger and Andrew Luck, so be sure to check that out. But today, let's hold off like we always do for like a minute or two to tweet out that we're live. And let me not move that actually, because I had a bunch of stuff there. But I have a guest coming on, so we're gonna welcome the old fox Nick Faber in a moment. Let me get him on a call and bring him on the show. Okay, he's saving the day as he always does. Let's stay there and do some changes. Ryan, let's get him off the screen. Put Nick on. That's Nick's dog that you're gonna be seeing, or stuff is just happening right now. Bear with me for a moment and everything will be under control. Ooh. I am trying to get Nick on the phone. So we're gonna talk second string receivers today. They need to have clear-cut number one guy in front of them. So no like Corey Davis slash. Is that extremely loud? I wonder. I'm gonna guess it is. I'm gonna turn that sound off. See if we can get him on. He's not picking up. This is interesting turn of events for this live stream. He says give him 5 minutes. Okay, that's no problem at all. He's gonna be joining us real soon. But as I was saying, it's gonna be clear cut wide receiver number 2. You can't have Corey Davis, Adam Humphries situation going on. It gotta be behind Antonio Brown, AJ Green, Julio Jones, that type of guy we're gonna talk about today. Nick's gonna be a little unprepared, but he's usually fine with that, and he can wing most of the things that he talks about. He's extremely knowledgeable, as people know who have seen him on this show before. Did I tweet out that we were live? I hope so. Yes, sir. We are live, even though it's been kind of chaotic to begin this show. But it will catch up. I'm sorry. This is how live stuff can happen, y'all. This is live. This is natural, organic dumpster fire that y'all are witnessing. But it's hopefully a little bit entertaining to see me struggle this much, and hopefully the sound is good. Let's see if Nick wants to come on and join us. And hopefully the chat is working. Everything seems to be looking good. Let me double check the sound. But the sound is looking good. That's gonna be loud. Oop, I think I answered with video to Nick. Nick, can you hear me?
I can. What's up, buddy?
How's it going? Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I call you the knight in shiny armor shows up.
That's right, baby. That's how we do it.
Yeah, that's incredible. Just let you know, oh, I need a guest on my show. Can you show up? Like, give me 5 minutes. That's dope. I appreciate you coming on. I love having a guest. I'm noticing more and more as I've been doing this show by myself for a week or two that it's extremely entertaining to be two people.
Yes, two
And it,
people definitely makes like a show. I like when I first broke onto the podcast scene, it was me, myself, and Irene. You know, just me doing out in Spain actually when we first and you realize it's just so much better with someone else.
yeah, yeah, and I remember the first YouTube show I ever was on your old show that I love being on. The what was it 10? What was it called?
10 in the head.
10 in the head. It was fantastic. We had so much fun on that one. You were in Spain, I believe, recording it on a very questionable computer.
Very Google Chromebook that costed, I believe, 120, maybe $140. Just meant to write, journal inputs while 3 months in Spain turned into me trying to do a video podcast with other people on Airbnb's Wi-Fi's, and it was tough, but we made it through.
Yeah, and it was like I said, it was so much fun. It got me inspired to to start my own show as well. A few years later, though, but it was very entertaining. And I know you kind of came on this week's show a little sporadically, so you are not prepared at all. So I wanted to give you a heads up what I wanted to talk about and
Perfect.
see how much we we can touch on this. I wanted to talk about second string wide receivers and how we feel about them. And what I mean by that is I want them to be clear cut wide receiver ones ahead of them on their team. So it can't be Corey Davis, Adam Humphrey situation. I've used them as an example as to be like Calvin Ridley behind Julio Jones, Tyrell Williams behind Antonio Brown, and so on.
Cool.
And I had a few guys in mind, and I know you're a little bit unprepared now, so I guess I'll start with my opinions on Tyrell Williams, and then you can chime in on that. I've been very high on him so far this year. I like what every wide receiver 2 has been doing on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been decent when he's been on the Chargers. I was actually very high on him a few years back when I looked at his floor, which is the one game floor that I've posted on ccfantasy.com as well, that he does have a decent floor. He's just been on an offense where he hasn't really been able to shine. He's now 0.9 in floor, which is low, but a few years back he was up in the fours, which is where you have like Keenan Allen and Juju Smith-Schuster right now with a ceiling of 12.9. That's comparable to somebody like who should I pick as an example, like Kenny Galladay, which isn't too bad, seeing as it's been on an offense where he hasn't really been featured. And I think with Antonio Brown on the other side of him, he's going to take most of the looks and leave Tyrell Williams with even more room than he had with Keenan Allen. What do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, so I got into this debate actually yesterday about Tyrell Williams or Marvin Jones, because they're actually being kind of drafted right in the same area. Tyrell Williams actually around later, but I like Tyrell Williams a lot in Oakland, but there's other guys that I want like instead of him when it comes to me drafting. And one of the main reasons is because Tyrell is he can be a home run hitter, but if he's not hitting a home run, he's striking out 4 times. Mm-hmm. So you're getting 4 points, 5 points, or 25 points, 26 points. It's very risky. Like I understand that there was a little bit more mouths to feed in Los Angeles. So when you go to Oakland, you got AB, but I don't know. It's so hard for me to buy in on Tyrell Williams. I am staying away from him. I'm fading him away. I know a lot of people are enjoying him this year and trying to get on him, but I'm fading him away just because I don't know what to believe in Oakland either. There's a lot to like process, right? Like, is AB going to be AB? Is Derek Carr going to be good enough to get the ball out to Tyrell? Is he still going to try to like get to his tight ends more often than his wide receivers? Is Josh Jacobs going to be able to be a good enough running back where the wide receivers can see less coverage, and defense will have to play more inside the box. There's a lot to see inside Oakland. I'm just not buying into Tyrell Williams. Like right now he's being drafted. Where is he?
113 overall.
Exactly. So he's one of the 50 wide receivers. So I mean that's pretty late for him.
Yeah, that's what I like about him, because other guys like Geronimo Allison, Larry Fitzgerald, Curtis Samuel in that range, Devin Funchess, I'm not high on any of those guys. And like if I'm looking for a receiver in that range, to me it might be take a shot at McCole Hardman, then at Westbrook, and hope Nick Foles can save his career. Other than that, is not a lot of quality. I don't even know how to pronounce that, by QT. I mean, he probably would be the only guy in that range that I have above Tyrell Williams.
So say you're drafting 11th round, late round, and you're looking there for a wide receiver. You got Paris Campbell, Devin Funchess, Deshaun Jackson, Deebo Samuel, Tyrell Williams. You're taking Tyrell over all those guys?
I might take a shot at Paris Campbell.
Yeah, see, I like Paris Campbell as well. Like, what scares me though is that I like both these indie guys. I like Funchess as kind of like remember when a couple years ago, I think this was like 2016, Dante Moncrief had a pretty good year with Indy, right? But he was very touchdown dependent. Like he scored like 9 touchdowns, but because of that, he went like 6 straight weeks with a touchdown, and he was a very good wide receiver too throughout that stretch. And I feel like one of these Indianapolis receivers are going to be like that, and I think that's going to be more Funchess, who's going to be really touchdown dependent, and he could possibly string together 5 or 6 straight games with a touchdown. Paris Campbell's going to be more of your like PPR guy in my opinion, where he might not get you 6 points via touchdown every week, but he could get you 5 to 7 points via receptions every week. You know what I mean?
No, definitely, and I think that's the Indy offense. Like Andrew Luck can make pretty much anybody great on 1 week or a couple of weeks, but then defenses start adjust, and then he just goes to the next guy and makes him great.
Exactly, and that's what makes a great quarterback, in my opinion. It's the same thing like Aaron Rodgers. Like if you're gonna sit here and try to take away Devontae Adams, he'll have no problem hitting MVS and hitting Allison and hitting St. Brown and all these guys. He has no problem with it. And that's what makes a good quarterback. When you take away, someone for 2 or 3 weeks, then you can just go to someone else, and then the defenses are like, all right, well, now we got to shift our attention over to someone like MVS, and then Devontae Adams is now not getting double covered as much, and he'll go back to Devontae, and it just keeps spreading around. Same with Andrew Luck. Like he'll use T.Y. Hilton mostly, obviously, but he'll also spread that ball around when it comes to the red zone. If you're going to start realizing that Eric Ebron's going to be the guy, they're going to put a ton of people on Eric Ebron. You have Paris Campbell, you got Devin Funchess, you got Jack Doyle, you got Marlon Mack. There's a plethora of players that you have around him. So I like one of these indie receivers. I just don't know if I'm sold on Campbell or if I'm sold on Funchess. Like, it's always scary to go with the rookie receiver. Like, name the last time rookie receiver from the third round, or what did Paris Campbell, maybe it was the second round, stood out
at all when he was drafted.
There's a few of them for sure. Juju was pretty good in his first year, and he was like a 3rd round pick. But the fact of the matter is it's rare. And
Definitely.
I'm not sold on Paris over Funchess just because of that. But you said you'd rather take Paris. So why do you like Paris over Funchess?
Usually I'm risk averse. I usually go with the guy who's been in the league. But when it comes to...
That's why, exactly. You and me are the same person.
Yeah. Yeah, I like... When people go last year when they went Saquon Barkley, I understand it. But also, no. I'd rather have the guy who's done it for 1 or 2 years. Now I'm down with drafting Saquon, of course, but I'm not gonna go with the guy because it can be freaking Trent Richardson. I mean that's what you're gambling. Every time you pick a rookie, you're like, oh, he can be Odell Beckham, yeah, or he can be any other first round receiver, Mike Williams, Laquan Treadwell. Kevin White, the list goes on and on. Don't get me started.
Well, that's what
the list goes on and on and on.
Receiver being mediocre to just average his first year, especially in fantasy, like he might be able to play a role on his team. Not saying anything about that. I'm just talking in strict fantasy. It's rare that these rookie receivers come out and produce. So for me, give me the chance that Devin Funchess can end this year with 8 to 9 touchdowns rather than the chance that Paris Campbell could end this year with 60 receptions. I'm going to take the former and Devin Funchess, you know.
Yeah. No, I understand. I would just. It's almost right now. It's almost 25 picks between them.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
103 and 127.
See,
Where
the
I've seen
80
my.
I'm looking at has 1104 and 1108, so just
Ah,
four
okay,
picks.
okay. No, that makes
That's
sense. That
why I
makes
was
sense.
putting them
And I
picks
think
together.
that's why we differ a little bit there because I'm looking at 25 picks later. Like, oof, I'd rather have him 25 picks later than Devin Funchess at
Yes.
103. So that makes a little more sense.
Yeah, if Campbell dropped to the 13th round, and you're asking, do I want Campbell in the 13th or Funches in the 11th? Like, I'll take Campbell for sure in the 13th. 100% what you're saying. So I
Yeah.
guess a little bit of miscommunication there, but yeah.
No, but that's completely understandable. But you and I, we're currently in a mock draft as well, and it's been a really fun draft for me. And I have two guys that I've drafted that I wanted to talk about today because I've almost drafted my entire dynasty team. I've in first round I've got Melvin Gordon, then Mike Evans, T.Y. Hilton, and then Philip Lindsay. I don't have him, but then I have Jarvis Landry in the fifth. So I have out of my first five picks, well, first six picks because I also have Tyler Boyd, who's the other guy I want to talk about. So I pretty much drafted my entire dynasty team. But Jarvis Landry to me is the best wide receiver two right now out there. I don't think it might because I'm not counting Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen because they're like wide receiver one and wide receiver 1.1. It's difficult for me to say that one guy is behind a clear cut number one. So I don't wanna get them involved in this conversation. But I think Jarvis Landry is probably the best wide receiver two for me for fantasy out there right now. What do you think about
I
that?
I fully agree. Right, he's definitely the best wide receiver too. He's obviously behind OBJ. It's going to be super interesting to see what his stats are at the end of the year. I don't think his receptions are going to go down at all. Like, really don't. Like, I know it's kind of crazy to say, but I think they're still going to push the ball to Jarvis quite often, and OBJ's going to get his fair share. Like, I don't know. Cleveland has to throw the ball at least like 700 times this year, just so everyone can eat. Because I don't know what they're going to do, but I got Jarvis ranked 16th right now. Like, I have him behind Amari Cooper, Robert Woods. I'd rather have those two, Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
But I would rather have Jarvis Landry than Cooper Kupp or Stephon Diggs or Brandon Cooks or Kenny Galladay. Like, and actually, right after that leads me to the guy who I would say battles Jarvis Landry. Now, Jarvis Landry is a better wide receiver, but I would say for fantasy, and if you can get 16 games out of Will Fuller, I think he could be another very phenomenal top tier wide receiver too. Like, he is a
Yeah.
touchdown machine when he plays. Now, obviously, he battles injuries, but if Deshaun Watson, who finished fourth last year in quarterback rankings, still with a depleted offensive line, and without Will Fuller, with Lamar Miller taking most of the snaps in the running back team, and a defense that was good but still let up a lot of points, like Deshaun Watson's open list. Like, if that team comes together this year and Will Fuller plays 16 games, Will Fuller could finish the year with more points in half point PPR than Jarvis Landry. In a full point PPR, I think I would give it to Landry still,
Oh
but
yeah, you have
watch
to.
out. I mean, watch out for Fuller this year. I like him a lot, but I also like Landry as well.
I really like Fuller as well. I think I don't what's his ADP right now? 70 overall. That's and I believe Jarvis Landry is much. Isn't that much higher than that? 53. So for me, it's almost 17 picks right now. 27. No, I'm high. 17. I'm not high.
I got Will Fuller going late seventh round, and I got Landry going mid fifth round. So for
Okay,
me, it's
so
separated by 2 rounds.
fairly similar though, but that difference is huge, and to me they're so different. That I love to talk about the floor and ceiling a lot, and to me that combination of Jarvis Landry's floor, he's always been highly ranked for me because he has a high floor. He's right now ranked.
Exactly.
I have him ranked as my 13th highest guy on my floor rankings, which is incredibly high. It's higher than like Tyreek Hill and T.Y. Hilton, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp. like higher than those type of guys, but he's way below on the ceiling rankings, where Will Fuller is extremely high for a guy who hasn't played that much. Like he's right behind Robert Woods, who's a big time player in my book.
Yeah.
So I think those, to me, Jarvis Landry, I'll pick him up in the 5th, and I'll freaking go Will Fuller in late 7th. I have no problem with having both of them.
Yeah, it's, you kind of don't want. For me, I always don't really want to base my team around twos. I always want to try to kind of load up on as many ones as I can. But I would have no problem if I had like Jarvis Landry as my wide receiver 2 and Will Fuller as my wide receiver 3 flex kind of position.
Oh yeah, no, of course. I'm not doing 1-2. I'm doing then 2-3
yeah.
or 2 flex.
Exactly. I mean, if I did go, if that ended up being my 1-2, that means there was a poop ton of running backs that fell, and I just couldn't stop drafting running backs for the first 4 rounds because I'm not getting a quarterback tight end in the first 4 rounds.
No, but go. Let's say you go Saquon or Zeke in the 1st, and then you pick up who do you pick up in the 2nd? Like another stud running back. David Johnson falls.
Right.
And then wide receiver in the 3rd, you go Keenan Allen. Like you're stacked the shit out of your team. And then you kind of have to reach a little bit for Jarvis Landry in the 4th, and then you have Will Fuller in the 7th. You're good. You have like Keenan Allen, Jarvis Landry, and Will Fuller as your wide receiver trio, while you still have like top tier running backs.
See, I'm in love with Will Fuller. In our mock that you referenced earlier, like I went Devontae Adams 1st round, James Conner 2nd round, so I started running back trend. James Conner, Kerryon Johnson.
No bias on Kerryon, right? No bias.
No, not at all. Conner, Kerryon, Sony Michel, running back 1, 2, 3. And so at that, I'm sitting 5th round. I reach for Will Fuller in the 5th round.
Yeah.
End up snagging Calvin Ridley in the 6th round, who I love Calvin Ridley because he's on a very offensive, prolific team. And Matt Ryan's going to throw that ball, right? Yeah. They don't have Tevin Coleman there to take away a lot of throws. I mean, sure, Hooper's still there. Sanu's still there, but I'm not too worried about him. It's Ridley's time to shine. Like, Julio's going to eat for sure, but Ridley's going to come out and be a beast in that. That's another guy that we could talk about there in reference to this show because he's a wide receiver too, for sure, clear cut. And he's going to eat because that offense is going to be scoring 35, 40 points a game. It's going to be gross. The whole NFC South with the Saints, the Panthers, the Bucks, the Falcons, every time they face each other, I want to stack as many players as I can in that division because that division is going to be a scoring machine. Carolina probably will score the least amount of points. That's why I like Mike Evans a lot this year. I like Julio. I like Calvin Ridley. I like the receivers for these teams. I love Michael Thomas. Like I've stated that he's my number 1 wide receiver this year.
Wow.
Julio's my number 3. Like a big division they play in. I'm telling you. Julio really, to be honest, is fast becoming my number 1, and Calvin Ridley's going right up there. I truly think Atlanta's going to score a lot of points, and I think Julio. If you look, Julio Jones last year scored 8 touchdowns in the final 8 games. So to everyone who says that he can't score touchdowns, get the fudge sickle out of here because he can score touchdowns. He may have went the first 8 weeks without scoring a touchdown and really got everyone worried, but he was still putting up 130 pointy game or 130 yards a game. Excuse me. He was still scoring. So, like, I love Julio and I love Calvin Ridley because he was a rookie last year. Now he sees this offense. He's got more chemistry with Ryan, less, targets to be spread out in Atlanta. So I'm all in on Calvin Ridley this year.
Yeah, and I think as I live in Atlanta, I that's mainly the focus on sports radio, and everybody talks to Falcons constantly. And Sanu is mentioned as the guy this is his last season. He's done after this. He's done in Atlanta. It's Ridley's time. Everybody's waiting on Ridley. Of course, like you said, Julio's gonna eat. That's just it. But Ridley, right now, I was gonna bring that up early. I have some numbers for Jarvis Landry, but I have him projected for 96 targets right now. I got Julio for 162. I mean, that's insane. But Ridley for 96 with the Dirk Cutter offense. I have them throwing 600 passes with Ryan.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm hoping for. My fingers are crossed that you're right, man. But I think that's what's going to be. I truly do. That's why I'm in on Devontae Freeman this year, too. He's going later than he should be. Get in on him. They have Edo Smith, the backup Devontae Freeman. Jesus. Edo Smith is not that good, guys.
Yeah, but
It's going to be
what's
Freeman's
the
back.
they like Ollison here as well. The guy they drafted, and I think they're gonna be a little. I think they're gonna be safe on Freeman and not roll him out too much. I think they want him to last the entire season. I like Freeman. I love him as a runner, but I think they're gonna be a little careful with him. That's what it sounds like. Make him.
They got to get their money's worth out of him. That's what I bet you they're thinking. Front office says we just gave him this huge contract. Now he's been injured for 2 years, coming out or a year. I don't know if it's 2 years. It seems like it's been 2 years, but now I feel like they're going to be running him in. Who did you say they drafted though that they liked? I missed that.
Ollison.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
It's not a big time player, but
no, it's not at all. I actually forgot he.
They want to have. I don't think Ito Smith is a good handcuff because there's always a risk with Freeman, but
definitely.
I don't think it's going to be a clear cut that if Freeman goes down, like here you go. But no, with the Ridley, to just stay on track with the wide receivers, Ridley, love what he's doing. Everybody loves him here. 96 predicted targets. That's funny. That's just 16% of all the passes in Atlanta. Is 96 targets. Some teams have like their number one receiver has like 26% of the targets for 110, and they just throw so much, especially with Dirk Cutter. I love Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to be a great pickup. I don't. You were talking about your team. You said you went Devontae Adams. That's awesome. James Conner. Karen Johnson, Sony Michel, hate that. Will Fuller, Calvin Ridley, love it.
See, and that's like a situation to cycle it back around to where I don't mind Will Fuller being my wide receiver too, because I went heavy running backs, and I love me some Sony Michel, Kerryon Johnson, and James Conner. I truly think those three guys are going to be beasts. So I'm fully on board with that. And then after Calvin Ridley, I will go quarterback to get Andrew Luck, and that rounds out just my starters right there. Basically, I'm sitting stacked. Now I'm drafting backups. I got Rojo just in case. I don't know what's going to happen to Rojo. I don't know what's happening in Tampa's running. But someone in Tampa's running game is probably going to be kind of successful, in my opinion. So
you pick one of them or pick both and just cross your fingers. But I really like, not to get on Andrew Luck again, but you picked him late 7th.
Yeah.
That's incredible value. I saw him going in the 5th the other day. On a 10-team league, and this is 12-team, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's incredible value. Deshaun Watson also late 7th. You can tell that everybody's like trying to hold off quarterbacks, but nobody could when everybody fell until the 7th, and everybody is I gotta get in on that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I was also trying to, because like in a real draft, right? Now we're drafting. I believe we're drafting like 18 players. It's kind of excessive in my opinion. But if you're drafting like 15 players, I always wait to the last pick to get a quarterback because there's always going to be someone out there that I like. Right this year, I think it's Dak Prescott. I bet Dak Prescott will be there in the last 2 rounds of all your drafts and redraft for this year, and I have no problem having him lead my team to start the year. Now, in this one that we're doing though, it's 18 rounds, so you don't. Really, when you do that, you're kind of like starting to get like Mitch Trubisky to be your starter, and just I don't know some guys that maybe you're Derek Carr, you're not truly sold on. So this is, I was like, well, this mock was our 3rd one. We do it every month, and I'm thinking I'm gonna wait on quarterback for a while, but Pat Mahomes gets drafted in the 4th round, then we don't see another quarterback drafted. It's the 3rd pick of the 7th round, and Aaron Rodgers goes. Then the 5th pick in the 7th round, Baker Mayfield's the 3rd quarterback drafted. Then Deshaun Watson, the 4th quarterback drafted. So I'm sitting there, 4 quarterbacks have been drafted, and Andrew Luck is still on the board. Normally, if he had been drafted and it was Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz sitting there, I'd have passed. I don't mind.
Yeah.
I like those guys. But I'm not sold on him. But Andrew Luck, I literally think is going to be the number 1 quarterback. So if he's sitting there as with the 5th quarterback to be drafted in the 9th pick of the 7th round, I had to get him. I think
you easily got a top 3 quarterback after 4 had already gone off the board.
Exactly. And that's that kind of value. And that's why, like, we can sit up here and we can say, I want this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy, and I want him here and I want him there. But when you're actually drafting and you're in the mock, you have to adapt to these things. Like, I would never say I want Andrew Luck because he's going a little bit higher than what I want to draft him at. I love him. I think he's going to be the best, and I'll be biting my lip every time that he's scoring 4 touchdowns every game. But it's just a little too high for me, so I wouldn't draft him. But sitting in the 7th round, you have to draft him, and that's what I'm saying. In fantasy, you have to be able to adapt to these things.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
be quick about it too. And somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's quickly rising up my rankings, who I drafted in this mock draft as well, Tyler Boyd. I started loving him last year. Oh my gosh! And okay, Andy Dalton is not a superstar, but he's a serviceable quarterback who, when his team is playing well, will get the ball to his skill position player, and one of them who's up there is Tyler Boyd. I'm just there was something about him last year that I feel people forget this year, but we've been talking about that on a ton of other shows when you've been on, that people are sleeping on the Bengals. I've been projected for 82 targets right now, which is kind of low end. I don't think that's a lot, but it's 82. I had Ridley for 96, so it's not that big of a difference. 5 touchdowns, 92.1 points in total, 52 receptions, and this is me like rolling back Andy Dalton's numbers, so this can easily be a little higher. This is to me conservative, and I think he has a lot more to give.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even say like Tyler Boyd only was successful while AJ Green was off the field. I mean, you can't even say that. I mean,
At all.
weeks 1 through 4, you're looking at Tyler Boyd having 38 targets in the first 4 weeks, along with 25 receptions, well over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like he produced even while AJ Green was there. He had
Definitely.
3 games over 10 targets last year. He had 6 of them 8 or more targets, and his catch percentage is at 70%. Like he's a good receiver, and
Yeah.
he showed that last year. We kind of were waiting for it in his rookie year. I bought into him a little bit early, I guess, but he never really came through. But last year you saw him, it click. You saw it click in his mind, and it just started working. And just like you said, I love me some Bengals this year.
Yeah,
I actually brought it up on my episode. My fantasy episode show that I do. We just dropped an episode this morning, and on it, I started saying that Cincinnati has a good chance to win the division. Asked my co-host if he agreed. He said they are probably going to lose the division as last place, so I needed to temper my hype for him. But I really believe that Cincinnati, like, correct me if I'm wrong, before Andy Dalton got injured, like 3 years ago, they were 8-0 and were like 11-3 or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. Last year, before AJ Green got injured, they were like 5-1 or something.
Yeah. No, they roll on, and then people hate on them. But I don't think they're gonna win the division. But I think they're gonna be extremely good for fantasy.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. Pittsburgh's on the decline. Yay or nay? Pittsburgh's on the decline, right?
Decline, yes. I don't think they're declining as much as people would have us believe.
You don't?
I don't think they decline as much as people have us believe. I don't think they're gonna reach the playoffs, but they're not gonna be like 4-12.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Ben is too good to only win 4 games.
Agreed. And now you're right. I mean, I'm not saying they'll be last in the division. I'm saying that they finish 8-8, right? I'm saying 8-8.
I'm fine with that.
Something like that. I'm giving Cincinnati 9-7. I'm giving Cleveland like 6-10. I can't remember what I did this not too long ago. My May rankings, but I think I gave Cleveland like 6-10. I love Cleveland this year, but sometimes hype can be your own demise. Yeah. And if you're just overhyped going into a season with a bunch of stars, the first bad stretch of 2 or 3 games with a rookie coach might not be great. It might be hard to dig out of that hole. Like sometimes you want a veteran coach who's been down that rabbit hole with 3 or 4 or 5 losses and still came back to win games, get to the playoffs because they have the experience. But when you have a rookie coach, it's just tough. I like Cleveland a lot this year, especially for fantasy. But when you're talking how many games they actually end up going out and winning, I just kind of have them 6-10 this year. But a step moving forward. I have them moving forward, like steps in forward. And then Baltimore, I'm just not sold on Baltimore this year. I don't know. I just don't know what to think about Lamar Jackson. I truly don't. And Baltimore 6-10, 5-11 as well. Because of that, I'm not sold on any of the AFC North teams. Cincinnati, I'm more sold on them, dude. I don't know. But they have a rookie head coach too, and that's going to be just as tough.
Yeah,
So
I think you win that division on 9-7 though. I think
I
I don't
just
know who,
whoever wins
but
that division will be 9-7 or
yeah.
9-6-1 probably.
Because to me, all of them are extremely even. Pittsburgh going back, all of the others. Well, Cincinnati maybe not going forward a lot, but they're still there. And then the other two teams. Well, Baltimore did make the playoffs, but I think you win it at 9-7. It's gonna be really tough.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a really tough division. Do we have any other clear cut number twos on that? Not really. But on my list, we've covered Tyler Boyd, Calvin Ridley, Jarvis Landry, Will Fuller. I would like to touch before we wrap this up on Chris Godwin, and well, we can skip Michael Gallup. I like him, but I think with the talk of Randall Cobb, is difficult for me to make a case for him to be a clear cut number two on that team right now.
If Alan Hearns makes the team, give me him over Michael Gallup in Dallas. But anyways, yeah, I don't really want to talk about them either because I don't
Yeah,
like either of them.
yeah, and
But
I'm wearing a Cowboys hat, and I'm like, I'm cool. I
I didn't
like him
see
as a
that.
player. I just like fantasy.
Yeah, well, exactly. Same thing. Same thing. Same thing. Same thing. Yeah, for sure. Another wide receiver too, though. Before we jump into those two guys, you just said Mike Williams for the Chargers. He's one to watch out this year.
Oh yeah, no, I forgot about him actually. I was looking at the ADPs too, and I wouldn't before we dropped Tyler Boyd. You got Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd, and then you have Tyler Lockett going after right now. Tyler Lockett is a wide receiver one. Do you go Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd, or Tyler Lockett?
See, I can't buy into Tyler Lockett.
Oof.
I'm one of those Tyler Lockett
No,
haters which
no.
is unfortunate because he was on my team last year and helped me get to my championship by
Yeah, he's
prediction.
awesome.
But truly, I don't know what it is. The Seattle offense scares me so much that I'm just gonna try to avoid those players at all costs.
He's so cheap.
If they fall in my lap, I'll take them. But like where you got like for me, I got Lockett going 508. I got Mike Williams right behind him and Boyd right behind him. Give
Okay.
me Mike Williams over them all just because I like that Tyrell Williams is gone from the Chargers, so I think Mike Williams is going to get more shares. I also think he's a big red zone target, which means touchdowns, which gets me salivating. So I like Mike Williams a lot. I like Tyler Boyd, and I like to say, like we just talked about, I'm going to give the edge to Mike Williams over both Lockett and Boyd.
Okay, I'm gonna chime in because we have a question from Juno. Welcome to the stream, Juno. Glad to have you on board as last week. Stefan
What up, Juno?
Diggs. Stefan Diggs, we discussed a little bit earlier on this show that, and I didn't really get your opinion on that, Nick, because I kind of steamrolled you. But I feel like the Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, they're too close to call who's the clear-cut wide receiver one and who's the number two. But do you wanna chime in a little bit what you think about Stephon Diggs, and then I'll go off of that.
Perfect. Sorry, my dog decided he wanted to tell. He was like Vikings. We don't talk Vikings over here in the house, but I guess we will for the sake of Juno. I believe is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Stephon Diggs, he's definitely. I wouldn't say he's a wide receiver two. To like touch on that real quick, I definitely think, like you said, it's 1A and 1B. Thielen and Diggs, they both serve their purposes. I prefer Thielen as the wide. I would prefer Thielen over Diggs in fantasy, and I like Diggs this year. Like I have him. Where did I say I have him ranked? So I have Diggs 18th. So some guys that I would prefer over Diggs this year, just because Minnesota to me is going to become kind of more of your rushing team. So I'm kind of trying to stay away from the receivers as much as I can. Again, if they fall into my lap at certain value positions, I won't say no to them. But just given the idea, I'd rather have Cooper Kupp from the Rams in a PPR league, even in a half-point PPR, just because I believe that him and Goff's connection are a little bit better than Diggs and Cousins. And I think that Kupp's going to get a lot more chances if he can stay healthy. I'd rather have Landry, like I said, Cooper. But some guys I'd rather have Diggs over. Like I have him 18th. That's very high. Like I love Diggs this year. I would rather have him over Cooks because I think Cooks, even in the Rams offense, is more of your home run hitter. He scares me. He's the same thing with Tyrell Williams, where he'll have some big weeks and he'll have some low weeks. Kenny Galladay, I have Diggs over Galladay, even though I'm a Lions fan. I love Galladay. It's just, again, they kind of also seem like they're going to be going to a more of a running team. So I don't know where Galladay is going to sit. I have him over Will Fuller, Tyreek Hill. So I have him over some guys that I really like this year, but it's tough for me to buy in on Diggs. Where's his ADP? His ADP is the late third round.
Yeah, it's way too high. It's way too high.
I would probably take Edelman and Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp instead of Stephon Diggs at the 11th pick in the third round.
I have Stephon Diggs 19th on my floor rankings, and I believe he's 15 on my ceiling. But so we're pretty close. I have Adam Thielen literally inching him out with 0.03 in ceiling and 0.1 in floor. So I have Thielen as the 1A and Diggs as 1B. I still think that it's a passing offense, so I disagree with you on that. I have them for 150 and 145 targets for next year.
And I just, you don't. They literally came out and stated they're like, we want to run this ball more. We're gonna give Dalvin Cook the rock a lot more. They got Madison behind him. Like, I don't know. I also feel Kirk Cousins is gonna find that connection with Kyle Rudolph or Irv Smith, whomever it is at tight end for him. And I don't know.
I want the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl, but you can't always get what you want, though.
Mick Jagger said it best. So listen to this real quick for Stephon Diggs. In our draft that we're doing, our mock draft with a bunch of fantasy Twitter boys, Stephon Diggs went 3.4, then Kenny Galladay 3.5, then T.Y. Hilton 3.6, then Julian Edelman 3.7. Would you have taken Diggs over Galladay, Hilton, and Edelman?
No, I have Hilton over Diggs. I have Galladay after Diggs.
Yep.
And I have Edelman ahead of Diggs.
Ahead of Diggs. Same with me. Like, I'd rather have
Green ahead of Diggs as well.
So for Juno here, if he or she is still listening, like, to answer your question, if you're sitting there in the fourth pick in the third round and Hilton and Edelman's on your board, I'm taking those two for sure over Diggs. But as we said earlier in the show, it's all about what draft you're doing at that time. You know, like, it's all about where these guys fall. It's all about who's taken before them and who's drafting after you and all this stuff. It's all these things you need to take into place. So it all depends on me for Diggs. Early third round, no thank you. Late third round, maybe. Mid fourth round, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And I think our draft, this mock draft, has been very reactionary, where you have 3 running backs go, and of course there's a 4th running back because, oh my God, the running backs are going. It's been very reactionary. So I think Diggs to me, he falls in that middle, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do here type thing. If he falls, like you said, to the 4th, like Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, I don't want Robert Woods ahead of Diggs. I want Brandon Cooks. Ahead of. He's my favorite Rams receiver right now.
Robert Woods is my favorite.
I think Cooks is getting disrespected so much right now. And to me, he has a higher floor than both Kupp and Woods, and he has a higher ceiling than both of them. I have Cooks, Kupp, Woods in that order.
Kupp, Woods.
Yeah, with Woods last. It's just they're almost also like the Vikings though, where it's like 1A, B, and C.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's one of those things where I usually try to stay away from those type of offenses, but where it's difficult to project who's going to be the guy that week. But if I want one of them, I want Brandon Cooks. But I try to stay away from bias, but he's been my sneaky pick for a bunch of years where I'm just like, oh, nobody likes him. He has amazing numbers. Let me pick him this round where he should have been picked 2 rounds ahead according to my rankings, and then just ridden him like a flex player that's just been producing points. So I'm a little bit biased.
Do you have Cooks over or under 120 targets?
LAR.
Because he's only had over 120 targets once in his career, right?
I don't have any of them. I don't have any of them over 115.
You don't have any of them over 115?
Nope.
Woods had 130 last year.
Huh?
Woods had 130 last year with 86 receptions.
Yeah, but that was with the Kupp getting hurt.
Like, I just that was with Kupp getting hurt. I understand, but even while Kupp was out on the field, Woods was still the number 1 wide receiver when it comes to fantasy, in my opinion.
I still have him.
Am I right?
I still have him.
I could remember.
No, he was.
I could be remembering.
20. He
Okay.
had. I've been predicted for 22% of all the passes for 112, but with cutback, I have him for 19 at 100 and Cooks at 20 for 101. So if Cup goes down, that should get Woods 20 more targets,
Right.
like last year.
And that's the same kind of thing that scares me about the Vikings, though, too. The more we talk about it, the more you just remember last year. Remember, they were all good last year, right? But
Yeah,
it was pretty scary because you like they're 1A, 1B, 1C, and you almost don't. For me, I'm always about the guy who's gonna, I guess, get the most volume from his team. So to me, I was he is the clear cut number one wide receiver, and wide receiver two is pish posh, kind of like AB this year. Like AB, I don't know about the wide receiver twos that were sporting. Sure, Tyrell Williams, but again, I'm not sold on Tyrell. So AB is like a guy that I want because he's gonna get a lot of volume.
yeah.
Where Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, all could very well be capped at 6 targets a game if Los Angeles decides to spread the ball out to all of them. So
Yeah,
it
and
kind of
then you
scares
like
me when
who gets the touchdown?
right, exactly. Hopefully you're the lucky one that gets the
Yeah.
touchdown because there's 4 players that can easily get that touchdown, So
No, it's an
scary.
extremely difficult offense to project.
Yeah.
It became easier with one guy getting hurt. I mean, that sounds awful, but
It is awful, but you're 100% correct.
yeah, like I don't wish anybody harm at all. I want everybody to
Right.
play. I drafted Cooper Cup on my dynasty team um, when he was a
If
rookie.
he
So
plays
I've
all
always
16 games,
he was.
if he plays all 16 games in PPR, he probably will be the 1A in my opinion.
What other receivers came out with Cooper Cup?
Draft wise,
Yeah, he came out
like
in
when he got
2017.
did he? Was that it? 2017?
Yeah, the 2017 draft. What other guys came
Catch
out?
me up.
Yeah, it was
I
like
don't know.
Mike Williams, John Ross, Corey Davis, Curtis Samuel, Juju Smith-Schuster, Say Jones, Arterio Stewart, Chris Godwin. Who would you say have had the best? If we that at Westbrook, if we say Cooper Cup, if we ignore his injury, who's had the best out of those guys that I mentioned? It has to be Juju Smith-Schuster, but after
It has
that,
to be.
it
Okay,
gotta be
yeah.
Cup.
After Juju. Okay, give me that list one more time. Mike Williams, Corey Davis, John Ross.
Curtin Samuel, Smith-Schuster, Say Jones, Darius Stewart, Malachi Dupree, Chris Godwin, Shelton Gibson, Chad Hansen, like Noah Brown. Like these are.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Williams probably had the best sophomore year. You can't say John Ross, right? We got to get rid of John Ross. He's a bum. Corey Davis, I liked Corey Davis a lot. Unfortunately, I think he had a really bad landing spot going to Tennessee and having a quarterback that can't throw the ball. So, unfortunately, I can't say Corey Davis. I'm not saying that he's bad, but he's just on a bad team.
Look at me. Okay. People who watch, he's bad. Don't draft him. I told you last year, people came for my life. I told you, do not draft Corey Davis. Don't do it again. No. Don't do it again.
Don't draft Corey Davis. Don't draft AJ Brown this year. Adam Humphries. Unfortunately, Tennessee's just not a. Derrick Henry might be an all right draft this year. But to finish your first question,
I just uploaded a video of him yesterday, giving him like a draft grade of D. Derrick Henry.
No man, like he's gonna be that guy with the volume though, because they're not gonna go back to Deion Lewis. Like Lewis is I bet he doesn't even make the team after preseason. Deion Lewis, and so it's gonna be the Derrick Henry show. I bet he's getting 24, 25 carries a game. And again, it's like I said this on my show yesterday.
For how many yards though? That's
right, exactly. I said this on my show yesterday about Leonard Fournette. He's a great running back, but just because he gets 25, 26 carries, and he's going to get more yards than Derrick Henry would given the same amount of carries, but Henry will still be able to pop out 85 to 105 yards a game with 20 carries a game, in my opinion. That's 4 yards an average. He'll average that.
Will he, though?
Maybe, unless it's Trent
Richardson. Leonard Fournette and Derrick Henry are some of my least favorite running backs for this year. I'm doing
Yeah, I hate
the
Leonard.
fantasy snapshot on cstfantasy.com/fantasy snapshot, uploading draft grades and going through everybody's running patterns. And Leonard Fournette's rushing patterns are it's just based on volume. Like it's I'm gonna bring it up real quick. I know we're supposed to talk wide receivers, but
welcome to a CSD show with Nick Faber, where the theme talked about 5% of the episode.
Yeah. So in the A gap, the average for running backs in the league is 4.1 yards. A gap is to either side of the center for listeners who don't know. Leonard Fournette averaged 3.4 yards per carry. That's 0.5 yards below the league average. Like league average, a guy like Karen Johnson, he has 5.3. 5.3. Karen Johnson. Austin Eckler 5.5. Guys that you wouldn't think are that good at running up the middle, like tinier guys, outperform Leonard Fournette in rushing up the middle.
Like, yeah, but they're smaller. They could squeeze through smaller windows than Leonard Fournette can. Leonard Fournette just has to bounce off of people, so it's tough to take his yards per carry, in my opinion. But also, one thing to think about for Jacksonville is their offensive line blows donkey. Like they're the horrible offensive line. But Tennessee's offensive line is a little bit better. I like Tennessee's offensive line. They're building a good offensive line there, in my opinion. Which is just the one reason why I like Derrick Henry on a redraft this year. Just add the value. Now, I'm not saying like I like him as a top 10 running back or anything of that nature. I have him ranked. Where do I have him ranked? Like I probably have him pretty ranked 21st. So I like him over like Nick Chubb. Like I like Nick Chubb more than Derrick Henry in the first 8 weeks. But when Kareem Hunt comes back, I think Chubb's going to have a huge decrease in points. So it's like I'll take Derrick Henry for season long.
Yeah.
I'll take Derrick Henry over Mark Ingram because I don't know what's going to – I know you love Ingram, but I'm take Derrick Henry over him. I'm going to take him over Kenyon Drake. Like,
oh, yeah.
What do you think about
Oh, no. Kenyon Drake is my least favorite running back to draft this year. I'm not going to touch him.
Why?
I'm not going to have him on any of my teams at all.
Why?
It's the rushing patterns is just even if you give him 200 carries with the rushing patterns he have now, I took it down for whatever reason. I had it up, but it's just god awful, and his floor is just you wouldn't think he's played in the NFL. Like people are too hyped, like you should be this. No, if you can't sustain any type of stability, I don't want you as my top 1 or 2 back on my team. You can be a flex player, but I prefer to have a wide receiver as my flex anyway, because I can kind of stream them a little easier by matchup than running backs usually.
Yeah, but sometimes you kind of want that running back because it's like almost that. At least you know Derrick Henry is going to get 18 carries today. Yeah, where it's like if you're trying to stream like Emmanuel Sanders, and not to say that we would because I'm not high on him, but just say you end up with Emmanuel Sanders and you're trying to stream him, you're kind of like, well, he could get 6 targets and 5 receptions a day, or he could get 3 targets and 1 reception because they double him all day or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. Like, I don't know. It's just like wide receivers, there's not as much consistency with. So it's like, I always want to revolt back to my primal days of fantasy football, and I always just want to get as many running backs as I can and just stack up on running backs and use them on my flex because it's, that's where all the volume's at. But it's not that.
If you can get Derrick Henry as a flex, I'm fine. But running back 2?
Yeah, that would be tough. You'd be going 3 running backs in a row to get Derrick Henry as a flex, though.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I like that. That's pretty tough.
Then your wide receiver team, you're gonna lose a lot. Oh well, we can circle back to wide receivers again, and like you can get like Chris Godwin. I think he's a very good wide receiver too. Especially now with Adam Humphries gone and a better coach for that offense. I think Bruce Arians fits Jameis Winston very well.
Yeah, I like Godwin, but I don't like him as much as everyone else in the world does. It seems like he's like the hottest sleeper this year. It seems like he's running the red carpet right now. But I'm not. I don't know.
I'm not that high. Yes.
There's people who are in love with Chris Godwin right now, like in love with him. And I have him ranked. Where do I have him ranked? And I even think I was generous with his ranking, but I have him 34th right now. Like I have Where do I have him? In front of him, I have N'Keal Harry, Tyler Boyd. Oh, I'm sorry, no. I have in front of him Tyler Boyd, Tyler Lockett, Marvin Jones, Geronimo Allison, Mike Williams, Emmanuel Sanders, Robbie Anderson. All these guys I'd rather have than Chris Godwin. I like Chris Godwin, but I'm just not sold on him. And maybe it's just because it seems like it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to go with your gut. And if everyone in the world is all in on one guy, same thing happened not too long ago. David Johnson's the number one running back, and in week one he gets injured, and I avoided him. I didn't draft him first overall. I think I ended up going Le'Veon, and it was because everyone was in on him. And when everyone's in on something, when everyone zigs, sometimes when your gut tells you to zag, you gotta zag. So for Chris Godwin, it's kind of like that for me this year. I don't have any reasoning why you should draft Marvin Jones over Chris Godwin. The only thing I could say is that Marvin Jones shown that he can be a top 15 wide receiver, a top 12 wide receiver 1, as he finished 11th, overall in 2017. So like, I'm gonna just take Marvin Jones over Godwin because I'm not sold on Godwin. It's a pretty horrible explanation, but sometimes your gut has to talk to you and you have to listen to it.
Just to round it out, just to throw some numbers out there to support some stuff we've been saying. Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. The Falcons played the group of teams that last year gave up the 8th most points to wide receivers. The Buccaneers played the teams that gave up the 5th most. So there's gonna be points for Chris Godwin to collect. What else do we have? I'm gonna tout my back a little bit.
I said that earlier too. I said get the guys in this division. Maybe I need to rethink this Chris Godwin thing. Yeah, I was just sold on him.
Let me see what the Saints have. So like these are some fun numbers that I work on. 11th most points to wide receivers, and then we have the Panthers, who I believe have the most points to wide receivers because they play the Bucs, Saints, and the Falcons. So that is the best division for wide receivers. The second best division would be the NFC West. Seahawks have the 3rd for wide receivers and the Rams the 6th. So look at those Rams receivers again. Rethink Tyler Lockett. And try to stay away from the Broncos, who have the most difficult schedule for wide receivers out there. But we've been talking about wide receiver 2 all day. We kind of went all CSD and Nick Faber and what do you call it? We were out there a little bit doing our own thing for a little bit. Started talking about running backs, but that's what we do. Thank you, Juno, for asking questions.
Man, I'm trying not to on tip of my tongue. We freelance a little bit. We kind of we ventured away from what our theme was, but we got back to it. I feel quite often. Sometimes we had some strategy talk in there. It's always a good time when you can listen. I love coming on this show, man. I appreciate you having me on, dude. I love coming on this show. Just because you said we go everywhere and anywhere, man.
Definitely, and as always, love to have you on the show. Glad to have you come in and save the day. I'm gonna schedule Nick again for the future as soon as possible because we love having on the viewers as well. I've got a lot of positive feedback, and as I always, make sure to check out csdfantasy.com for the next article on Thursday. We're gonna look at running back floors, and on Saturday or Sunday it will be a new fantasy snapshot video up. I haven't decided which player I'm gonna focus on. But on csdfantasy.com/fantasy snapshot, I'll upload all the snapshot videos, and you can head over there for an early bird special. Right now, it's going to be over 100 players with fantasy breakdowns in video format, around 3 minutes long, and it's an incredible opportunity to get an edge in fantasy football. Nick, again, thank you so much for coming on. How can people find you?
As always, I appreciate you having me on. It's always great. On Twitter, at Nick Faber, NFL. Just started a new podcast. We just dropped our 3rd episode. Make sure you're following and subscribing and all that. You find it on Twitter, RZR Fantasy NFL. Red Zone Report Fantasy. Go to LARedZoneReport.com to find it under the podcast section. It's fun. Me, my buddy John Valencia. We had a podcast going for the AAF for a long time. I say a long time, but really it was like 6 weeks while it lasted. But it seemed like it was good times. It
It
was
was
good
good
times.
one.
But unfortunately, we were obviously stopped, and we're rekindling the flame here as a fantasy show again at RZR Fantasy NFL on SoundCloud, Spreaker, YouTube. As again, always a pleasure too.
Thank you so much for coming on, and I'll see you all again next week. Have a good one.